let's finally get to talk about free agency. We'll start today with talking about the offensive side of the ball and giving grades and analysis for all the biggest moves that have happened so far this week. Before we begin officially, all right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you're listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 39, and episode 39 is discussing the offensive side of the football in free agency 2025. The 2025 season is officially upon us. The new league year starts today. As of me recording this video, you guys will see this Thursday. So anyways, so the new league year has officially started. We are in the 2025 season. So wow, it's great to be here. Absolutely great to be here because we got a whole lot of moves to talk about, a lot of changing, a lot of gears turning. But before we start, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping because I haven't done housekeeping in a long time because I've been so focused on predictions versus reality. There hasn't been time for housekeeping. You actually get to sit down, talk with you guys, and catch up a little bit. So first things first, hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you guys are doing some good things, right? Getting better every single day. That's not the best intro to start this, but at the same time, I'm wishing all of you the best and hoping you guys are getting better every single day. And also, a couple things that I've done in my life recently. Well, I don't know if I've talked about it officially, but I've started watching the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, which has been absolutely fantastic so far. I'm almost done with season 1. That's been a lot of fun. Also, playing video games. I'm still playing Rocket League. I've actually started playing a lot more Fortnite, which is interesting. Never thought I'd actually get back into that game, but little did I know, here I am, and now I play Fortnite almost as much as I play Rocket League, which Rocket League I play a crap ton of. So there we go. Those are the two big games that I'm playing right now, although I did get a couple of new games that I'm really, really enjoying. First one, Cruel. It's a Doom-like. If you guys don't know what a Doom-like is, it's a game that plays like Doom, the old first-person shooter that came out in the 90s on the computer, right? And it's a game, it's like $10 on Steam. I really advise you check it out. It's one of the greatest games I think I've ever played. It's so much fun. The music's great. Gameplay feels so good. It just feels like a modernized version of Doom. And it's so fun because I love playing Doom. Doom is a very fun game. So to me, it's very enjoyable. And the second one, not a game that's new, but if you're a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog games, Sonic Unleashed, which came out in 2008 on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, got a PC port finally, but not in the way that you guys are thinking. They didn't remaster the game. It didn't just get remade. No, someone took the raw file of the game, like from the disc, and was able to recompile it to make it run on a PC. So how it works is apparently a few people did it in like 6 months and kind of shadow dropped it out of nowhere. And so what happened is they took the file and instead of having to use an emulator, which you would normally have to do for legacy games, right? Like that was on an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, or like if you're on a Wii, you have to get Dolphin emulator. Some of you guys know about that if you're into the emulation community, right? But with the raw file and having it recompiled, the PC runs the file and runs the game as if like you bought it on Steam or bought it off of Epic Games or something, right? Like a traditional game on PC. And so now the game can be upscaled. You can increase the resolution, the frame rate, right? VSync, anti-aliasing, all that good stuff with the game. And so now the game can play at a solid 120 FPS at 4K resolution. I don't have a 4K monitor, so I don't do that. I play 1920 by 1080p. But either way, now you can play Sonic Unleashed at a with more modern specs. So it's essentially working like a remaster, which it's been great. It's been a lot of fun to play. It comes with all the DLCs as well, so you get that to enjoy with it, and it's been a blast. Sonic Unleashed is my favorite Sonic game, in my opinion. Best boost gameplay that's ever been in the series, and also, people give too much flack on the Werehog stages, in my opinion. I think the Werehog stages are really fun, and the later on you get in the game, the more fleshed out it becomes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun, so getting to play it on a better frame rate, on a better resolution on my PC is such a big boost to enjoy the game. I will say though, when you upscale the game, textures do get a little bit fuzzy in cutscenes, which is a little jarring, but if you can look past it, the game is a lot of fun. And so playing those two games, Cruel and Sonic Unleashed on PC, have been my two really fun additions to my gaming catalog. But with all that being said, let's begin getting prepared to talk about free agency. Before we begin into the news, if you guys like the content and are brand new around here on the channel, I would highly recommend hitting the like button or the subscribe button. Or no, hit both. No, sorry, hit both. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. It takes only a couple seconds. It's free, and it helps the channel out tremendously in helping me continue to grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. We're trying to reach 50 subscribers, so live streaming can become enabled. That way, more possibilities and content ideas for the Shumake Take can become available to us. And then I want to hit 100 subscribers before the 25-25 season starts. So we got a few months, or more than a few months, to make that happen. So make sure to hit the subscribe button to get subscribed to the Shumake Take. I got great content coming out for you guys every single week. So with that being said, let's begin talking about it. This is how we're going to structure it. We're going to talk about the biggest names from quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, and then we'll cap things off talking about the offensive line, those big guys up front. Can't leave them out. So let's begin talking about the quarterbacks with the first big move made so far in the offseason. Geno Smith traded to the Las Vegas Raiders for a 2025 third-round pick. I'm going to give this move for the Raiders a solid B. Why? Because the Raiders, one, are getting an upgrade at quarterback, and two, it's a veteran quarterback that's worked with Pete Carroll, so there's a connection there. There's a familiarity with the scheme, right, and with the culture that they're trying to be, new culture they're going to try and set. So getting a veteran guy like Geno Smith to pair with Pete Carroll in a new regime in Las Vegas, I can get behind that and I can agree with it. Also, Geno Smith is a solid quarterback. This means that they won't have to rely on having to draft a Shedeur Sanders and get their franchise quarterback of the future right now. I still think they should if Shedeur Sanders is available, but now it's not a big of a need, and so I'm looking at maybe a Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, for Las Vegas because they need another wide receiver at that spot if they decide to not draft a quarterback or if one's not available to them. That could be a really good move in my opinion, and trading for Geno Smith opens up those possibilities. Also, apparently, there was a blockbuster trade in place to send Max Crosby to the Seahawks and send Geno and DK Metcalf to the Raiders, but that fell through, and then at some point, Geno Smith wanted a new contract extension being worth 40 to 50 million, and the Seahawks didn't want to give it to him. I can't remember the full context behind that. I could be having that backwards, right? I can't remember, but something with money, and Geno Smith apparently didn't want the money, or the Seahawks were not willing to give him the money. I can't remember the full context. So Seahawks and Raiders fans, let me know in the comments down below about that situation. I want to be properly informed. Anyways, so now Geno is a Las Vegas Raider. They have a good move there. They need to get a running back, which also could be picked with their 6th overall pick if they take Ashton Jeanty, which is now a more bigger possibility with Geno Smith. But I think they might end up picking Tetairoa McMillan if Shedeur Sanders does not fall to them. But if Shedeur Sanders falls and he is available at pick 6, I think they still pick Shedeur Sanders because that way he can sit and learn behind Geno and learn the ropes. And by the time Geno's out of there, Shedeur Sanders will be ready to go. The next move, Sam Darnold, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings, going to the Seattle Seahawks to replace Geno Smith on a 3-year, $100 million deal, the same contract that Baker Mayfield got when he went to Tampa, or when he, after his first year in Tampa last season. This move, I'm going to give this one, oddly enough, a C. Maybe a C+. The thing is, the deal is decent. Compared to what people thought Sam Darnold would get before the offseason started, this is a really fair and very reasonable deal for a guy like Sam Darnold. Maybe not to some people, but for the situation and the context, fine. I can get behind it. But also, with the situation in Seattle with what they're doing right now, they traded away DK Metcalf, they released Tyler Lockett, leaving only one good wide receiver on the team, which is Jackson Smith and Jigba. They also could use a tight end, but Noah Fant's okay, so I think you can roll with that. But also, with the issues on the offensive line as well, I don't know if this is the move that's going to help them in the long term, where they really need to build this offense from the ground up now, more than they already had to. And to me, Sam Darnold's not a guy that you bring onto your roster to build around, if that makes sense, which is what they're going to have to do because they don't have anything on offense for the most part, right? Not anymore. So I feel like Sam Darnold would have been better where, like in a situation in Minnesota, where they have great offensive weapons, a good offensive line, right? Great coaching, where a guy like Sam Darnold can come in and you can get the most out of him. He will play well for you because he has a great situation around him. The situation around him right now in Seattle is nowhere near as good, and I don't think it can get to a point where it's even comparable. I mean, realistically, it can't be. You can't get much better than Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, and a top-tier offensive line, right? You can't do that overnight. But also, you have to at least have a decent situation for Sam Darnold to have success, and right now, it's not even decent. So, it feels like a move that felt a little too early, and obviously they had to have to make a move at some point because apparently Geno did not want to be there anymore. I have no idea 100% of the context behind that situation of why he got traded, but now you have Sam Darnold. You have the contract that you gave him. I think it's just going to be a C+ because he's a guy that if you build around him or if you give the right roster there in place for him to succeed, he's going to give you good football. But if not, I have very high skepticism if he can actually do that. Time will tell to see what Seattle continues to do in the draft and throughout the rest of free agency. But right now, I can't give the move any higher than a C or a C+. The next move, number 3, Justin Fields, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, goes to the New York Jets on a 2-year, $40 million deal. This move, not for Justin, but for the Jets, more specifically, is a D. Why? To me, I'm still one of those people that's out on Justin Fields. I don't think he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And with all the needs on the Jets, I don't think that this is the best situation to put Justin Fields. We talk with the people that are Justin Fields truthers or apologists, trying tell people that Justin Fields is good because look at what he was able to do in Pittsburgh with a good team around him. And then Chicago, they never built a good team around him. He would never have the best talent that he could possibly have. And you're right. All that is very much true. But the tape says otherwise. The tape shows that he's not a good decision maker. He's not good at throwing with anticipation and timing and accuracy. He is a very raw quarterback that's going to have to fall into a heavy run play action type of scheme for him to have success, which I would say, sure, right? You're going to a defensive head coach, Aaron Glenn, which defensive head coaches tend to have a more run-based approach. And then you have Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, who are talented, but you're adding the running quarterback in this situation where they have a terrible offensive line and the 31st ranked rushing offense. That was only behind the Las Vegas Raiders, who somehow are even worse than that, but we're not talking about the Raiders anymore. So I just don't think this is the right situation right now for Justin Fields to be going to. Because you think about, he needs to go into a good situation. He needs a good situation around him. What has he got? He's got Garrett Wilson, who he was teammates with, which that's a plus, right? But you need more wide receivers than that. Allen Lazard is okay, but there's another hole that needs to be filled there. Tight end Tyler Conklin, he's okay. We'll see. It's really this offensive line that I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about this offensive line. The interior, not so much because they have guys there. The tackles, they don't have starting tackles anymore. Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses both left in free agency. They're older guys who want to go compete for championships. And Morgan Moses went to New England, which I don't know why he would go there if he wanted to compete for a championship, but it's not like he openly said that. But I would assume that if you're at that age and near the end of your career, you'd want to go to a good team. But he chose to go to New England, so there's Morgan Moses. Tyron Smith is still available as a free agent at the time of recording this video. But I feel like if you're going to bring Justin Fields and you're going to bring in this young quarterback and give him an opportunity to start again and see if you can get something out of him with the talent that he has, I feel like you need to do more to bring in to put more around him before you bring him in here. Because for Justin Fields, this is the last chance, in my opinion, the last chance he's going to have in the NFL at being a bona fide starting quarterback in the NFL. And if it doesn't work out this year, I don't think he'll ever be a starting quarterback again outside of being a backup that has to, check in once in a blue moon. And that's sad because Justin Fields, I will admit to you, he has a lot of talent. He has a lot of talent. He can throw. He can run. He has dynamic playmaking ability. And in the right situation, I think Justin Fields can be successful. But given the track record of the New York Jets, as I knock my microphone down. Let's fix that real quick. Given the situation with quarterbacks of the New York Jets, I do not feel that Justin Fields is going into the right situation where he has the best chance to succeed. And that's unfortunate because that's not fair to Justin. But that is the move that the Jets made. That's the move that Justin Fields will be going to. That's the situation he's going into. Time will tell to see if he does something, and I'm hopeful that he does. He needs to, or else his starting career will be over, but we will just have to see. Next move in the quarterback spot, Daniel Jones, formerly of the New York Giants, then got traded to the Minnesota Vikings halfway through the year, is signing with the Indianapolis Colts on a 1-year, $14 million deal with $13.15 of that guaranteed. I'm giving this move a C-. A C-. I talked about this a little bit in my predictions versus reality video talking about the Colts, which if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out now. I briefly touched on how if Daniel Jones is going to be legitimate competition, I mean legitimate competition for Anthony Richardson, that's admitting Anthony Richardson is a bust. Because theoretically, in a guy like Anthony Richardson's situation, right, super talented. I'm talking about a top 3 talent in the NFL, and I am not joking when I say that. You talk about that. 4th overall pick, top 5 pick in the draft. That's what I was trying to say. In that situation, when you have that type of a quarterback, he should never, ever be in the same realm as Daniel Jones to where Daniel Jones can legitimately compete with that guy to be the starting quarterback of an NFL football team. But here we are. And like I said, that's admitting that Anthony Richardson is a bust. If he's bad enough to where Daniel Jones is legitimate competition, what are we doing here? So in that case, if I'm the Indianapolis Colts, and there's been rumors that they're going to trade him, I don't know if you should trade him. I mean, despite how bad he's been, he's your 4th overall pick. You got to try and see what you got in him. And I get bringing in competition is meant to push him and see if you can get the best out of him that way. But at the same time, that's not exactly instilling confidence in your quarterback either, knowing that, oh yeah, he could wake up one day and he won't have a starting job anymore in the NFL. But the only thing that's keeping this from being a D move for the Colts is that he can run a little bit. Daniel Jones has wheels on him, right? Nothing like Anthony Richardson, of course, but he can run with the football. So he fits the scheme a little bit better than like Joe Flacco did last year, where the offense had to change a little bit to cater to Joe Flacco's strengths, which he's a veteran quarterback, right? Who's in his late 30s. So he is a pocket statue guy that's going to beat you with good decision-making, quick timing, accuracy, where Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson can both use their legs, run a more RPO-style offense, right? A more modernized version of an NFL offense that helps complement the more dynamic athletic traits that quarterbacks have today, right? So it's a better backup situation than Joe Flacco, in my opinion, just because of the scheme fit, which is keeping it from being a D, like I said. But I can't give this any more higher than a C+, and this is a very interesting situation to talk about with the Indianapolis Colts, because if there's a scenario where Daniel Jones beats Anthony Richardson, and that's the scenario we get, oh boy, this is going to be one interesting? No. What's a word that's not as, without as a positive connotation as interesting? Very worrisome if Daniel Jones beats out Anthony Richardson and becomes the starting quarterback of that team. Next up, 5th out of 6th on my list here, Josh Allen, quarterback for the Bills, agreed to terms on a new 6-year contract worth $330 million buckaroos with $250 million guaranteed, the most guaranteed money a quarterback or any NFL player for that matter has ever received in NFL history. I'm going to give this move an A-. Money for a team that needs to really retool, this is a massive move, a massive money move to extend Josh Allen. Well, not to extend him, but to increase his contract, given that the salary cap situation for the Bills already is not that great. So I like the idea of giving Josh Allen the money, right? He deserves it. He just won MVP, whether you agree with that or not, right? He is their franchise quarterback, and given all that he's done for the franchise so far to this point, I think he is deserving of that type of money. He is a top 4 quarterback in the NFL, arguably top 3 or top 2, depending on which group of people you're talking to. But the thing is, if Buffalo is comfortable with shelling out this much money for Josh Allen, given with how well they've ran their organization over the years so far and how they've built this team up. If Buffalo is comfortable with the move, then I can trust their judgment. I can trust that they're making the right call, and I can say, okay, I'm comfortable with it. That's why the biggest reason why I'm giving this move an A-. Can't be an A+ because the money is a lot of money for a team in an awkward cap space situation. But if Buffalo's comfortable, I can trust their judgment for now. Lastly, the most important quarterback move, in my opinion, was a quarterback swap. The Browns received quarterback Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick for the Steelers, and Eagles received Dorian Thompson-Robinson, former quarterback out of UCLA, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. For both teams, I'm giving this move a C. Not because it's a bad move or anything, but like this is just a backup quarterback swap. And I think, while it's a C, I would say it's a decent move because Kenny Pickett, right, for Cleveland, he's a former first-round pick, right, whether he deserved to be there or not, he is still talented. And also, he fits the scheme better in Cleveland more than he does in Philly. On the flip side, Dorian Thompson-Robinson will probably do better in a scheme like the Philadelphia Eagles compared to the Cleveland Browns. So you get two young quarterbacks that are better scheme fits for your respective offenses. And while the fifth-round pick, sure, it's a fifth-round pick. You don't really want to have to give that up. But also, if you're going to give up a pick for this type of move, a late day 3 pick works for me. So this move is a C because it's just the backups. But for both teams, I would say this is a good move for both of them. Let's move on to wide receiver. Talking about the biggest move in this department. The Steelers are trading for Seattle Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf. Seattle will get a 2025 second-round pick and do a late-round pick swap that has not been yet disclosed. DK Metcalf will also be signing a 4-year, $132 million extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers, paying him just over $30 million for a year. This move, I'm going to give it a B+. Not an A move. Why? Because DK Metcalf, while he's a good receiver, he is not a top 10, top 15, top tier, that upper, top, I'm talking about like an A tier, S tier type of receiver. He's like a B+. Like he's just on the bottom of A tier, or like just on the near the top of like a B tier of a receiver, which is why it's not an A move. Also, it's a B+ because Pittsburgh did need another really good receiver, and I talked about this in my predictions versus reality video talking about the Steelers, which you should check out if you guys want to. And they got their receiver now. They paid him a bunch of money, which, okay, good. He wanted that money, sure. But also, if George Pickens still continues to be good, you got to pay him too. So that's going to be interesting here in a year or two if that bridge comes across. But the only thing that's really keeping this from an A is the overall production of DK Metcalf does not justify the contract that he got, in my opinion. He's only had a couple 1,000-yard seasons in his career. Now, part of that is because he's dealt with a couple minor injuries, but also last year he wasn't used properly in Seattle, in my opinion, right? So that also contributed to his lower numbers in 2024. But I just don't know if paying $30 million for a receiver that's only had a couple 1,000-yard seasons is really worth it. But DK Metcalf is very, very talented. So I can give it a pass at least there. Although, if you've watched a lot of my older videos, you know me, I don't pay based off. If I'm an NFL GM, I'm not paying off of talent alone. I have to see at least good enough production to justify it. Like, same thing with like Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. All the talent in the world, but absolutely dang near zero production that can come even close to justifying the contract that he got. It's not as bad as this. Or the DK Metcalf situation is not as bad as that. Not even close, right? But still, I would have liked to see DK Metcalf have a couple better years in Seattle in order to get this type of extension, but he got it. He got paid, so congratulations to DK Metcalf. I'm not saying like he doesn't deserve it because he's not a good, because he shouldn't get that contract because he doesn't deserve it, like because of other reasons. No, DK Metcalf, get your bag, bro. You deserve the money. So in that regard, and so there you go. Also, this will entice a quarterback to come to Pittsburgh more. They've been rumored to get either Russell Wilson back or go to Aaron Rodgers, which honestly, Russell Wilson might be the better fit because his familiarity with the offense and George Pickens, right? But also Aaron Rodgers could also fit because he's a guy that is good decision maker, quick timing, accurate, gets the ball out quickly, which they're going to need in Pittsburgh because their offensive line wasn't that good last year. So having a guy that doesn't hold the ball too long like Russell Wilson did, I think that would be a better fit than Russell Wilson now that I'm thinking about it. But one of those two guys will be headed back to Pittsburgh. It's only a matter of when it will happen. Next move, the Rams sign wide receiver from the Las Vegas Raiders, formerly, or from the Jets actually, from last year, Davantae Adams, signing a 2-year, $46 million deal, $26 million guaranteed. This move will be my first A of the video. People were going to question why I'm giving Davantae Adams the move an A. Here's the thing, I'm still high on Davantae Adams more than most people. I think he's still a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL. I think that poor quarterback play and poor football teams have kind of diminished his perception, or the perception of him as a player. And also because he's entering, his mid-30s, people are like, oh, he's falling off a cliff. Not really. I think Davantae Adams can still be a 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL, and with Puka Nacua, who actually changed his jersey number to number 12, the number he wore in college, to give it to Davantae Adams. You have Puka Nacua and Adams on the outside, and Tutu Atwell is going to remain in the slot. He re-signed there. So I think this is a great receiver trio right here. And I think Davantae Adams in a better situation with a good offense, good quarterback, a great head coach, a good run game. I think that Davantae Adams is going to have a really good year in Las Vegas. Does he hit 1,000? I won't be 100% sure on that, but I believe that he still can hit that. So if things go right for the Los Angeles Rams, Davantae Adams will be a big move for them that'll pay massive dividends as they continue to try and get 1 more, 2, 3 more good years out of Matthew Stafford before they finally have to pivot. Next one, the Bills signed former Chargers receiver Joshua Palmer to a 3-year, $36 million deal with $18 million, which is half of that guaranteed. This move is a solid B. This guy is what you want in a wide receiver on a football team. He is reliable. He is durable. He is still young at 25 years old. He is a good scheme fit as a guy that's good at yards after the catch, that fits with a guy like Khalil Shakir, that fits with a guy like Keon Coleman, which he really isn't a yards after catch guy, but he's more of a 50-50 ball guy. But at the same time, Josh Palmer will have a role in this offense, and it'll be nice to see him in a slightly bigger role where he's going to be more dependent upon compared to how he was last year with their run-based offense with the Chargers last year. And the only thing is I'm not going to make this an A because of obviously the ceiling level of a Joshua Palmer. He's going to give you like 500 to 700 yards a year, so I can't give it an A, but the Bills could have used another wide receiver, and you get a young guy who, like I mentioned, reliable, durable, and also can fit in the scheme. I really like this move. Very solid move, which is why I'm giving it a B. Moving on. The Texans ended up trading for Christian Kirk in my predictions versus reality video, talking with the Jaguars, talking about Christian Kirk being released. Well, before he was released, at the very last minute, the report came out earlier this week that Texans were going to trade for him, and in return, Jacksonville gets a 2026 7th-round pick. Also important to note, the Texans also signed Justin Watson and Braxton Berrios to be depth players in the receiver room. This move for the Christian Kirk trade, I'm going to give it a C. The thing is, he's a good player, but he's dealt with injuries, and on the last year of his contract, which is $15 million, or $13 million, I believe, right? So it's going to be another 1-year rental like Stephon Diggs was. And instead of a concrete solution as a starter, I think that for the time being, okay, and you got him for practically nothing, so it's a low risk to mid to high reward. So if Christian Kirk stays healthy, you're going to get good production out of Christian Kirk. You're going to get a solid, reliable, quick receiver that'll really be a good chain mover for you and be a good security blanket like he was for Trevor Lawrence. So I like the move in terms of upside. I'm just giving it a C because I don't know how much of an upside there is on a guy who's coming off of a pretty big injury and also has 1 year left on his contract. So it's going to be another 1 year rental receiver, like I mentioned, just like Stephon Diggs. Next up, the Buccaneers re-sign wide receiver Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $66 million deal with $44 million fully guaranteed. I'm giving this move a solid B+, because Chris Godwin, obviously, he's been with Tampa his entire career. He's the second all-time receiving yards for the franchise behind his teammate Mike Evans. So keeping these two guys together for another year is also important. It also helps fill or make sure that the Bucs don't need to draft a wide receiver immediately. So that's not an immediate worry for the Bucs, although I could see them going first round in receiver. It could be a possibility, although I think they probably go DB or edge rusher potentially. Well, no, maybe not edge rusher because they signed, what's his name? Hassan Reddick this offseason, which we'll talk about next or tomorrow on the defensive free agency video. But this is the B+ move. It helps secure the wide receiver group, like I mentioned. I think they got him for the right price. And keeping that type of guy like that in the locker room is also equally as important as the guy that you're getting on the field. Because this is a guy who's been there forever. This is his second big contract with the Buccaneers. More than, not just his first, his second. So having a guy like that around the players, around the other players in the locker room, along with what he gives you on the field, the injuries, obviously it's a concern, right? But also Chris Godwin, I don't think he would have had success anywhere else compared to Tampa. Tampa is his home. I like Chris Godwin a lot, so him staying in Tampa is a good move to me. Number 6, the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens. This happened today as of me recording this video. DeAndre Hopkins goes to the Baltimore Ravens on a 1-year, $6 million deal. I'm giving this move a B-. The prophecy is finally being fulfilled. If you guys remember, a few years ago, DeAndre Hopkins posted a video with a picture with him and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and asked people what this offense would look like and how well they would perform. Well, now they're not going to perform as well because DeAndre Hopkins is older now. Derrick Henry is also older than he was in that picture, no longer in his prime, although he just came off of a 1,900-yard season. The dude sometimes isn't real. So either way, I'm giving it a B- because I fear that they're gonna try and force him to play a bigger role in the offense when he probably shouldn't because of his age and his production in Kansas City and also in Tennessee last year. But at the same time, he still has something to give, and also I think he could fit well within that offense. So I'm going to give it a B- because it fills a need at wide receiver for them as well. So solid move overall, but giving it the minus because I fear that he could be in a bigger focal point than I think he needs to be. But that's neither here nor there. Well, that's not here. That's for later on to talk about as the season actually gets here. Next up, the Giants are re-signing Darius Slayton to a 3-year, $36 million contract. I'm giving this one a C, not because of the player, because it's the contract, which here's another opportunity to dunk on the Giants for getting rid of Saquon Barkley. The 3-year, $36 million deal that was given to Darius Slayton was $3 million more than Saquon Barkley's contract with the Eagles that he received last offseason. Yeah. They gave Darius Slayton $3 million more for 3 years instead of giving Saquon Barkley that same contract. Yeah, this isn't, oh my God, dude, the Giants front office sometimes just boggles my mind. I mean, I don't know how many more times we can, dunk on the New York Giants. And for Giants fans, I am sorry, but it's every time something related to Saquon Barkley pops up, you gotta dunk on the Giants because that was one of the worst moves they have ever made in the entire history of their franchise. And this move makes that move look even dumber. But in terms of keeping it to Darius Slayton himself, I think the move there is a B if you look at it in a vacuum, excluding the emotional baggage from Saquon Barkley, because He is a solid receiver. He's been there forever. I think this is his third contract with the New York Giants, similar to Chris Godwin. So keeping that guy around in the locker room is also very important, right? And also, if you're going to bring in a veteran quarterback or even draft a quarterback or both, keeping as many reliable, good receivers in your room is important. So not a bad idea to keep someone like that around. The next one, Jaguars signed Dyami Brown to a 1-year, $10 million contract. I'm giving this one a C+, because while sure the Jaguars got him for cheap, I thought Dyami Brown, I'm giving it a C+ because of Dyami Brown's perspective, because I thought he deserved a longer contract. I'm saying a 2-year, $20 million, or even a 3-year, maybe 27, 27, well, no, maybe 3-year 30 is a little bit of a push, right? But even then, maybe, right? I think Dyami Brown's a pretty good receiver. So giving him only a 1-year, $10 million contract, unless the value is lower than I'm thinking of when I think of Dyami Brown, but I thought Dyami Brown deserved a slightly longer contract and a slightly bigger contract at that. But if he does play well for Jacksonville, you're going to have to shell out more next year to keep him, or this is just going to be another 1-year rental, which Jacksonville does not need right now because they're going into a new offense with Liam Cohen as the head coach, right? And right now, your only good wide receiver on the team is Brian Thomas Jr., and now you have Dyami Brown on the outside, which fine, but now you need a slot receiver, which people thinking it could be Parker Washington. I'm not so sure. I'm open to seeing if that happens. We will see. But also, you now need a tight end because Evan Engram is now gone, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So Dyami Brown's a good move. I thought you should have given him at least a 2-year deal. That way you have some continuity as the offense and new culture in Jacksonville can be built with a bunch of the same people there for at least a decent amount of time. Lastly, of the notable moves to me, Hollywood Brown re-signed with Kansas City. It was a 1-year, $11 million deal. B-. Brought him back out of necessity, really, because of the overall lack of a lot of the unproven talent on the Kansas City Chiefs receiving room. But at the same time, he got hurt. And when he came back, he did make a difference on that offense, looking at how well they performed there at the end of the year. So let him get healthy, get a full offense healthy in Andy Reid's scheme. Let's see what he can do a full 17 games if he remains healthy. That I'm kind of excited to see because he's a very reliable receiver, very quick receiver, which fits in what Kansas City tries to do. So I like it. B- just because of the injury concerns. But if you get a full 17 games out of Hollywood Brown, I think he gives you 700 yards and probably 5 to 8 touchdowns. So there you go. I think that's a B- move. Solid move for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we move on to running back, where we have 3 big moves. Maybe not big moves, but very solid moves nonetheless. Number 1, Najee Harris, formerly of the Steelers, going to the Chargers on a 1-year, $5.25 million deal, fully guaranteed, by the way. This move is a B-. Najee Harris will give the Chargers the run game a lot more of a physical look, which Gus Edwards tried to give that, but really couldn't. And you pair that with J.K. Dobbins, who's more of your flash and dash type of player. Now you have a duo that on paper looks pretty solid. And the thing is, Najee could see better production because he doesn't have to be the bell cow back anymore, which he's proven that he isn't. His less than 4 yards per carry, 3.7 career yards per carry is reflective of that. And I think, but also I'll give it a B- because I think drafting a running back like an Ollie Gordon, right, could have been a better option if you get younger at that position, right? But Najee Harris, overall, I think he's a good running back and can be a good complement to what the Chargers want to do, and paired with J.K. Dobbins, I think could be a really physical running back and have a much more lesser but more productive role with the Los Angeles Chargers. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings re-signed running back Aaron Jones to a 2-year, $20 million deal, $13 million guaranteed. Even though he's not a great player like he used to be, I'm still going to give this move an A, because Aaron Jones was a big part in what brought the Vikings offense success last year. He kind of, in a way, kind of rejuvenated his career. I would say revived his career, but at the tail end of his time in Green Bay, people kind of wrote him off, and then he goes to Minnesota, and bam, he has a really good year, and keeping him around is really good because You don't have to worry about drafting a running back and starting him. The offense remains with continuity. He's a veteran guy, and you also got him for the right price, in my opinion. So there's really nothing to not like about this move, bringing back Aaron Jones. I still think you could draft a running back on day 3 to kind of just sit behind. Maybe not really sit behind, but also kind of just take some snaps off, kind of be like a relief pitcher first, and then when Aaron Jones leaves, that guy can become the starter. But that being said, keeping Aaron Jones around was important to increase the continuity or continue the continuity of the Vikings' success on offense. And with the right price, I cannot complain about it at all. I'm giving it an A. The next one, the Panthers signed Rico Dowdle, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, on a contract that's worth up to $6.25 million. The actual contract amount has not been disclosed yet as of recording this video, but I'm giving this move a solid B, because you're getting a player that just went over 1,000 yards, kind of gave the Cowboys offense a lot of juice at the end of the year when they had nothing left to give at the receiving position. CeeDee Lamb was hurt and then got shut down. So Rico Dowdle was a focal point of the Cowboys offense last year, running over 1,000 yards, like I said. And this will really help with the Panthers' run game, because now you have Chuba Hubbard, who is your bona fide starter, who can be a bell cow. But I think you want to keep him a little bit fresher and let Rico Dowdle be a little bit more of that relief pitcher type of back who can fit similarly. So I like the move. Adds depth to a position that also was lessened because Miles Sanders was cut. So you get a better player to fill in there in that backup role. I really, really like that move to build that running game up. Now we move to tight end, where we got a few moves to talk about. Starting with the Cincinnati Bengals, re-signing Mike Gesicki to a 3-year, $25 million deal. I'm going to give this move an A, solely for the reason that all offseason, the Bengals were or Joe Burrow, or how am I going to say this properly? It has been talked about how Joe Burrow wants to keep the trio of Higgins, Chase, and Gesicki all together to maintain the success and consistency of that part of the offense, which, if you remember, the Bengals, the only thing that went good for them was their passing game. So keeping Mike Gesicki around at tight end is important there. And also, he's a quality tight end, got him for very cheap. Like I mentioned, keeping the core together. Normally, Cincinnati wouldn't do that, although there's other people that have been talking about how like the poor front office structure of the Cincinnati Bengals has kind of screwed them over with their cap situation right now and what they're having to do with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, right? But at the same time, I don't think Cincinnati in the past would have kept Mike Gesicki, so keeping him around here is good, and it's nice that it seems like they're trying to take into account what the players want, what Joe Burrow wants, which is cool to see, having an organization, at least on the surface, do right by their players. I like that. I support that. And Mike Gesicki is a good tight end. So you got him for cheap for a good price, and he stays in Cincinnati, which will help their passing game continue to be good. Next up, 2 moves from Washington. Commanders are re-signing Zach Ertz to a 1-year, $6.25 million deal. And they also re-signed John Bates to a 3-year, $21 million deal. Both of these moves together, I'm just going to combine them because they're on the same team. I'm going to give this one a B+. First off, Zach Ertz, while he is a veteran tight end, you got him for another year. He was a very big, very reliable security blanket for Jaden Daniels. He played that role very, very well, where he was the second most reliable target for him outside of Terry McLaurin. So I expect Zach Ertz to continue to play that role there, and having John Bates, keeping him around, is nice because after Zach Ertz leaves, it's going to be him and then Ben Sinnott as tight end 1 and 2. So keeping the consistency in the tight end room overall is important because now that's blocked up. You don't have to worry about that position at all. And also, like I mentioned, with the consistency of the tight end room, that's also helpful for a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who is growing and developing going into year 2. So having the most players like retained on the offensive side of the ball, especially pass catchers, as you can, is important for a quarterback's development, because one of the biggest things they need to be successful is consistency with the people around them. So you have a head coach that's constantly, that's a good head coach, right? The offensive coordinator, I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury will leave and become a head coach at any point anytime soon. He's going to be here for 2025, obviously. So that's good. And then keeping pass catchers around that have been here right, with Jaden Daniels and will continue to be there with Jaden Daniels is important. All that from a consistency standpoint. Next up, the Saints re-signed Juwan Johnson on a 3-year, $30.75 million deal that has a max value of $34.5 million and includes $21.25 million guaranteed. This move, I'm going to give a B-. He's a solid tight end, but not a true bona fide starter. But at the same time, he was used a lot with Foster Moreau especially near the end of the year with Clint Kubiak's offense in New Orleans. But at the same time, with how much he was being used, that does provide value. And to be fair, keeping him around is probably better than getting rid of him because you want consistency on offense. And considering that the most consistent part of that offense was the tight ends, not including Alvin Kamara, I think that's important to keep him around for what the Saints will need out of him. Next up, to conclude the tight end spot, as my tablet continues to fall. Let me catch this. Don't fall on me, please. Don't do that. Anyways, the Broncos signed tight end Evan Engram, formerly of the Jaguars, agreeing to a 2-year, $23 million deal with $16.5 million fully guaranteed. I'm giving this move a B+ because Evan Engram, while he got hurt last year, at his best was a very explosive and very reliable tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, he's not really a traditional tight end. He's more like a bigger receiver. And one of the big needs on Denver's team is a tight end. So getting a tight end with the explosiveness that Evan Engram provides will also help Bo Nix continue to grow and develop there. And adding another playmaker, I'm not going to complain about adding a good playmaker around Bo Nix for a good, cheap deal. Who, for a productive player, I really like this move, and I like what they could get out of him in 2025. Now we move to the offensive line, to the big guys up front, starting with the biggest move in the offensive line area, the Washington Commanders trading for tackle Laremy Tunsil from the Houston Texans. They get the Commanders get Tunsil and a 2025 4th-round pick, and the Texans receive a 2025 3rd-round pick and 7th-round pick, and a 2nd-round pick and 4th-round pick in 2026. For the Commanders, this move straight up is the first one on the list. A+. A+. The big setback of the Commanders' offense was their offensive line, and adding one of the best tackles in football for what you had to give up for him, honestly, is very solid. You had to give up a 3rd and a 2nd-round pick, fine. But for a top-tier tackle, a top-5 tackle in the NFL, I will give that up, to get Laremy Tunsil immediately. The weakest link of the Commanders, like I said, was their offensive line, and getting one of the best tackles in the NFL at left tackle, right, protecting the quarterback's blind side, that is huge. Building around Jaden Daniels is absolutely huge. Which, by the way, we need to jump back up to wide receiver because I missed one speaking of the Commanders. I don't know why I didn't have it written here, but wait a second. Did I talk about the Deebo Samuel trade already? I think I did in another video, I think. Oh, yeah, I did. In the episode 37 or episode 38 when I talked about we got news. That's when that move was made, so I already talked about it. Never mind. Anyways, so the Bengals. I just looked at Mike Gesicki. That's why I said that. I'm scrolling down my script, getting back to my point. So Laremy Tunsil, great move, and it helps shore up this offensive line. For Houston, I kind of talked about this in the Texans PVR video, which you go ahead and check out if you haven't already. What are the Texans doing? They had one good offensive lineman, which was Tunsil, and now they have none. This offensive line has gotten worse. This receiving core so far has gotten worse. So now, if you're the Texans, what do you do now? Now you have to go offensive line in the first round more than you already had to. At this point, I would consider going 1st and 2nd round picks as going offensive line. And you do get a 3rd round pick in this year's draft, which will help you continue to build that roster out. But this was a move that really didn't need to be made. That wasn't necessary for Houston, in my opinion. So obviously, there's probably a little bit more to it than I know about. But on the surface, this is a bad move for Houston, but a fantastic move for the Washington Commanders. The second biggest move on the offensive line department, the Tennessee Titans My Tennessee Titans, which if you're looking at this, this is a Titans shirt, by the way. This is one of my favorite shirt, and I wear this shirt all the time, but I haven't worn it on the show before because I haven't made it known that I am a Titans fan. But if you look at my Titans predictions versus reality video, I am a Titans fan. Woohoo, it's out here now. Now I'm wearing my most comfortable shirt on the show, and wow, what a coincidence, I feel the most comfortable. Anyways, the Titans sign tackle from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dan Moore, to a 4-year, $82 million deal, $50 million fully guaranteed. This move is a C+. I'm going to speak from a Titans fan perspective on this one because I think it really helps exemplify why this move is a C+. Because I've seen some people say that this is a good move, even big analysts, and I don't fully agree with it. On the good side of it, you have a offensive lineman, a tackle, that is 26 years old. You look at his advanced metrics with pass blocking efficiency and run blocking efficiency, they were top 10 in the NFL. So why would I say this is a C+ move? Well, first off, he allowed 12 sacks and 41 pressures last year. The Steelers have drafted offensive tackle in back-to-back drafts with Broderick Jones out of Georgia and then Troy Fautanu out of Washington. There's a reason why they've drafted 2 tackles in the first round back-to-back years, because clearly Dan Moore has not been making the cut. Don't let all the years of him starting in Pittsburgh fool you. Not to mention, if you ask Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it seems like they couldn't wait to get him out of Pittsburgh. So how am I supposed to be excited or feel good about this move? Right? And also, he is a left tackle, meaning that 7th overall pick J.C. Latham, who you started at left tackle and talked about all offseason about how he's going to be the left tackle of the future, now moves to right tackle. So that entire development in his rookie year to remake that transition, he played left tackle in high school and then moved to right tackle at Alabama because they were kind of stacked at that spot, right? So that was his chance to play. But this is just, it wastes his rookie year. It wastes his rookie year, so now he's got to learn how to play right tackle in the NFL, which was not what he was, meant to do when he was drafted by the Titans. So you're also going to pay top 10 tackle money for average play, which I get it. If you're a bad football team like the Tennessee Titans, you have to overpay for mid to average starters. It's kind of like what Jacksonville did with Christian Kirk, right? So it's a similar concept. But if you want to look at another good thing for this move, if you're on that good side, I already talked about with the good side of Dan Moore. But also, if you think about it, J.C. Latham did play right tackle at Alabama in his entire career, which with more recently, he seems to be more familiar with, which he could be more comfortable with. And also, you looked at the tackle market, definitely the better side was left tackle than right tackle, which was filled with a bunch of 30-plus-year-old aging veterans compared to a guy like Dan Moore, who is still 26 and still young, right, in his physical prime. So I think the idea is, would you rather have Dan Moore, who started a bunch of games for Pittsburgh every game of his career, who's been durable, right, and reliable, and then you move J.C. Latham over to right tackle, which fixes that horrendous issue that we had last year in Tennessee. So the idea is you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here, and is that a better? And do you go here and do you make that move, or do you sign a veteran guy like a Morgan Moses and then draft a tackle in the 2nd round? Right? It seems like they wanted to go with a more immediate fix and a more immediate, successful fill-in-the-hole need where, okay, now the Titans don't have to worry about drafting offensive tackle in the draft. So now they can focus on drafting Cam Ward 1st overall, which I think they need to do. And then with the 2nd-round pick, maybe you trade down and then you can take a wide receiver and then take an edge rusher. Well, bam, there. The 4 biggest needs on the roster were addressed in the way that I think they probably should have. But Dan Moore, I don't like the move very much given how the context of Dan Moore's time in Pittsburgh and some of the moves that they made and how Steelers fans feel about it, and also the 12 sacks and 41 pressures. As a Titans fan, that scares the ever-living daylights out of me, given that we've had bad tackle play for 3 years now, right? And I don't want bad tackle play to go back to the left side of the offensive line. I saw enough games of Dennis Daly and Andre Dillard to give me nightmares. So if Dan Moore is bad in Tennessee, I will be the first one to come on this channel and on the internet and start dunking on my own team. I don't care. I got to talk about this team objectively sometimes. So here we go. Dan Moore, new left tackle. We'll have to see what happens there. Speaking of veterans like Morgan Moses goes to the New England Patriots, agreeing to a 3-year, $24 million deal worth up to $28.5 million. I'm going to give this move a B because while Morgan Moses is 34 years old, he's also still proven to be a very reliable tackle. And considering how big of a need that the offensive line is for the New England Patriots, this is a solid move. You bring in a guy that can play well for you right away. You don't have to worry about drafting and developing on that spot. I like it. It's solid move. Not much more past that, but to help shore up an offensive line that was god-awful for New England last year, signing a veteran like Morgan Moses is a solid start. Next up, the Ravens re-signed tackle Ronnie Stanley to a 3-year, $60 million deal. I'm giving this move an A because that is your star left tackle. He continues to stay with, of course, like I mentioned, he stays with Baltimore, right? I think you got him for a very solid price. $20 million a year is not bad at all. So you get a good tackle, got him for a good price, and he's been there forever, so keep him there for even longer. That's the move the Baltimore Ravens needed to make. It's the right move they needed to make, so that move gets an A from me. Next up, the Falcons are extending Jake Matthews, their star left tackle, to a 2-year, $45 million extension with $38 million of that fully guaranteed. I'm giving this move also an A-. Jake Matthews is a very underrated tackle and definitely one of the better tackles in the NFL, but doesn't get that recognition very much because the Falcons never do much of anything because they don't make the playoffs anymore. So it's like people don't take the Atlanta Falcons seriously, so people don't really acknowledge Jake Matthews individually. They love to talk about how good the Falcons' offensive line is, but never give individual credit for the guys there. So Jake Matthews, good offensive tackle, extend his contract so he stays there for a while as Michael Penix continues to develop. I think it's the right move they need to make, so I'm giving it a B+. I think I said B, but officially it's a B+. Next one of the more obscure moves on this list. Overall, the Chiefs sign offensive tackle Jaylon Moore. I don't remember what the contract information is, but overall I'm giving this move a C because he ended the year on IR for Jacksonville last year, and he's a high-risk, high-reward player. And for a team that needs better tackle play, I don't think this is the move they needed to make. I don't know if he's going to play left tackle or right tackle. I don't know what their plan is there. But I hope this is not the plan they have to be their starting one of their starting tackles in 2025. Because if it is, I am fearful for Patrick Mahomes' safety because that is not a move that is very convincing to me. Another move that's not very convincing to me is the Packers signing former 49ers guard Aaron Banks to a 4-year, $77 million deal. This one I'm giving a B- to a C+, depending on how I'm feeling, right? It's about that range right in the middle of those. It's an average player for a high-end deal, started a bunch of games for the 49ers, but the metrics were not great, and you still have Elgton Jenkins on your offensive line at left guard. So I don't know why you would pay that money when you already have a good starting guard in Elgton Jenkins. There is rumors that he could move him to center and they're going to cut their center. I don't know what the plan is. There's maybe more to it than we know right now. But right now, that's not really a need where the Packers needed to spend big money. If they were going to spend big money, I would have liked them to spend big money at preferably like a wide receiver, for example. They need a number one elite wide receiver, and they could have gotten Chris Godwin. They could have gotten Davantae Adams. They could have traded for DK Metcalf. He was rumored to be going to Green Bay early when the rumors began happening, and they couldn't get the deal done. So now they have a highly paid guard that's probably above average at best, and going into a spot where the Packers already have 2 starting guards. So I don't know what the plan is there, but we will have to see how that fills out. But for now, I will say the move definitively will be a C. Next up, Ben Bredeson re-signing on a 3-year, $22 million deal with the Bucs. I'm giving this one a solid B. Again, a very solid player since joining Tampa. He left New York, went to Tampa, became a very good player for them, helps keep that offensive line together as they transition into a new offense under Josh Grizzard. And Also, offensive line consistency is important. Having that continuity with those same 5 guys as much as you can for as long as you can is very important for an offense's success, especially in this situation where they are going into a new offense, like I just said. So having that consistency is important, and that's probably more important than just the player and their ability on the field themselves. It's what else he brings to the table and how he can help this Bucs offense. Next up, the Chicago Bears signing former Falcon center Drew Dalman, agreeing to a 3-year, $42 million contract with $28 million guaranteed. I'm giving this move a B+. Drew Dalman's a really good center, and now the offensive line for the Chicago Bears is set. You have Braxton Miller, right? No, not Braxton Miller. Braxton Jones at left tackle, Drew Dalman at center. You have Darnold Wright at right tackle, and then you have Jonah Jackson at one side, and then I can't remember the other guard that they traded for, Joe Thuney, right? So yeah, so you have Jonah Jackson and then Joe Thuney as your left guard, Jackson as your right guard. So now your offensive line is set, and on paper, this is a significant improvement on their offensive line, considering also the interior was the worst part of that group. You get a really good starter in Joe Thuney, right, who's a reliable veteran. You get Drew Dalman, who's one of the top centers in the NFL. And while Jonah Jackson, is coming off of an injury and it's been a little bit up and down recently, he is still a starting level guard in the NFL, in my opinion. And as the 5th best offensive lineman, solid. And of course, Darnold Wright, right tackle out of Tennessee, very high upside still as well. Still like him. I'm still very high on him. So now there is no excuse for the Chicago Bears offense to be bad next year. There is no excuse anymore because you have receivers. You do need a running back still, but we will see what happens there. You got a better offensive line. Now this offense has to step up and be better. And if they're not, we have to have a very difficult conversation. But that's neither here nor there. We will have to talk about that later on. But Drew Dalman, very, very good move for the Chicago Bears. Lastly, to conclude the offensive linemen, the Chargers re-signed center Bradley Bozeman. While the amount has not yet been disclosed, I'll give this move a C+, because while he has not been great as a center, he is a veteran who is reliable. He's starting level, right? And also what he brings to the locker room is worth keeping him around, similar to a guy like Chris Godwin, where sure, you probably could have gotten a better player out there to fill that spot, but for continuity and locker room reasons, I think those were really what pushed Bradley Bozeman to stay, and so I can't complain too much about the move. But that being said, that is going to do it for me today with offensive free agency. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're a fan of any of these teams, what do you think of these moves? Do you think they were good? Do you think they were bad? What do you think I had rated too high? What do you think I had rated too low? What moves did you want me to talk about that I missed? Let me know all your thoughts there in the comments down below. Also, if you guys liked the video, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe button together. It's free, only takes a couple of seconds, and helps the channel out tremendously as I continue to grow and spread my football passion to more and more people on this platform. And lastly, make sure you guys share the video, whether it's by word of mouth or social media, getting everybody locked in, locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. I come out with great content for you guys every single week. Free agency is in full swing. We could talk about defense tomorrow. We got a lot of great moves to talk about there, so stay tuned for that. And also, predictions versus reality videos are finished, so if you want to go check those out, I highly advise you go check them out. They're really good videos. I really enjoyed making them, talking about every single team and reflecting on their season. But that will do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.